Hi, and welcome to the second episode of Thinking Thursday. I am your host, Bronwyn Lucas, licensed professional counselor, certified Christian counselor, life coach, and Reiki therapist. Yes, the woman with a lot of hats, but all dedicated to helping others make their lives better. So I am excited about being here tonight, excited about our topic. Now, when I tell you our topic, don't run away. As a matter of fact, I think I'll do our deep breathing exercises before I tell you the topic because it might scare you, and I don't want to do that. For those of you who are listening for the first time, we always start with some deep breathing. Deep breathing is a way to calm the mind and body and help you focus. So it's the end of the day. I don't know what kind of day you had. Maybe it was a great one. Or maybe it was like mine. You wake up and find out your refrigerator you thought was repaired is broken and it's leaking water all over your floor. Not the day you wanted to have first thing in the morning. But you move on. But we might have had a great day or a bad day, but we're going to do some deep breathing and just get rid of the cares of the world. So I'm going to count you in, but I want you, when I say start breathing, you're going to breathe in through your nose, put your hands on your stomach, and breathe in so deeply you feel your stomach pushing out, and breathe out through your mouth. Let's try it. Breathe in, two, three, four, out, two, three, four. Let's do it again. Breathe in, two, three, four, out, two, three, four. One more breath in, two, three, four, out, two, three, four. Hopefully, you have shed a few of the cares of the world and you're ready to move on. Um, Tonight, we're talking about depression. Yeah, the big D. Something that a lot of people feel that depression and black people, they don't go together. The common thought is, as black people, we do not have the luxury of being depressed. Not true. It is not a luxury, it's a reality. And it does impact us. So if you're watching, if you're on, I invite you, start a watch party, invite a few more people because we are going to talk about it, but we're going to come up in the end and leave you on a good note. I am real big on definitions and making sure we're all on the same page because when some people hear the word definition, the word depression, they think one thing, somebody else will think another. So I want to give you an official definition. It doesn't sound pretty, but we'll go through it. Depression is a psychiatric disorder that affects mood, behavior, and overall health. I always say that when we think about our health, we have the Western thought that mental health is one thing, physical health is another. That is not true. Health is health. And as long as we are managing our health, we're doing good. But one part of our health impacts another part of our health. So, wow, it's just all health. So, tonight, when we talk about it, we even see that depression affects our mood, behavior, and overall health, meaning our physical health as well. So, what is this depression? Well, depression causes some prolonged feelings, some feelings we don't want. So, what would that be? Sadness. When we think of depression, we think of someone who is just so sad. They just sitting there, oh Lord, I can't take it. And that is part of it. We're going to find out it's more than that. Or emptiness. You feel as if you can't do anything, nothing's right, you can't make things work. You're hollow inside. hopeless inside. And there's that strong sense of, I just can't make anything happen. You're way too depressed to make it work. Or a loss of interest in activities that you used to enjoy. Just don't want to do anything. You're too sad, too empty, too hopeless to do anything. But it also has, again, some physical characteristics. Being depressed can cause changes in appetite. For some, you may be too depressed to eat. You're just, I don't care. I'll eat later. It doesn't matter. Or you can't stop eating or eating things maybe that are unhealthy. Maybe, you know, you have a sugar. I need sugar. I want ice cream. I want this. You're feeding your body things that are not healthy, things it does not need. Or it can cause changes in your sleeping pattern. For some, they want to sleep, 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 and just cannot get up. Because you're feeling so hopeless, sad, and empty, and don't have an interest in doing anything, why bother waking up? So you're just sleeping there. Another change is no energy. Think about it. If you're just hopeless, feeling helpless, that is not going to energize you. So, yes, that's another side effect. And difficulty concentrating. If all of this is going on, can you really concentrate on anything? So it impacts how you deal with others, it impacts your work, it impacts your family life. Every aspect of your life can be impacted. The final part of the definition is, although depression is considered primarily a mental health disorder, again, it can have some more physical things. And this definition, once again, it says it's primarily a mental health disorder, which means it has physical consequences. When you're depressed, you're not functioning at your best. Some of the things that may occur is you may have headaches and you don't know where this headache comes from, but the depression can have physical manifestations. There can be you can have unexplained aches and pains. You don't know where they're coming from. That could be part of the depression. Fast or slow movements, it just impacts every part of your life, even how you just get from point A to point B. Or even having digestive problems where you just can't think. You can't eat, your food doesn't digest well because your body is out of sorts. I like to think of it as this. I see our emotions as having energy, and let me tell you what I mean by that. Have you ever walked in a room with someone and with people already there, and maybe they've been in an argument, and at the point you walk in, you don't know that. But you walk in, even if their backs are to you, and you feel a certain way, and you're like, is everything okay? What's going on? And when they turn around and you see the faces, it's for sure. But you felt something when you walked in that room. You knew something was wrong. But the opposite could be true. Let's say it's a baby's first 1 year old birthday party, which really isn't for the 1 year old, it's for the parents and everyone else because the 1 year old has no clue. But you have so much fun watching that baby have fun. You have fun if sometimes they'll do a separate little cake and the child gets to put their hand in the cake. It's all over their face. Everyone's laughing. If you walk into that situation, it's going to feel good. You're going to feel the energy in that room. So that's why I say our emotions are like an energy. They have a certain energy. You feel it. You can feel someone else's good vibes as well as somebody else's bad vibes. Now, here is how that depression and those emotions and those feelings impact you and that energy. When you are feeling, if you're the one who was in that room arguing, you feel it. When you're upset with someone, you feel it. Some people clench their fists. Some people bite their jaw. Some people feel it in their neck. You feel anger, and we can acknowledge that. Well, it's the same thing with depression. It is an emotion and it has physical manifestations. You feel it. That energy is somewhere in your body. Now, here's the thing. Remember, we black folk, us African American, we don't have time or luxury to be depressed. But we are. So, what happens? We keep all of that negative energy that I just talked about inside our body, and it causes those physical manifestations. We get headaches, we get unexplained aches and pains. We move slow, or maybe we move too fast because we're trying to overcompensate for feeling bad. My stomach is just out of order and I don't know why. Oh, it's just one more thing. And we internalize it more. So, as we talk about depression tonight, if you have questions, just type them in. So, as we're talking about it, I will try to answer your questions as they come up. So, looking at depression, and I'm telling you, yeah, it's real and it's in our community. So, I want to know this. I want to know if you think it is common in our community. And I will tell you, yes, it is. It's very common in our community. How common? At least 10% of African Americans are reported to deal with depression. Now, remember, we don't deal with it and it doesn't exist. So, if 10%, 10 to 20%, some estimates say, deal with depression, if we don't think it exists and we don't deal with it, that means more than 10 to 20% of people are dealing with depression. So it's a whole lot more. Someone asked a question, and I'll jump in on that one right now. Thanks, Darla, for asking that. What causes depression? Well, depression doesn't have a single source. Many things can lead to depression, can lead us to it. And so, what are some of those things? It could just be the simple situation you're in, and we'll call that a single case of depression. And it's different for different people. If you look at everything that's going on right now in America, man, that's reason to experience some depression. If we look at things that are going on with COVID, for some people, they are in their home alone. Isolation can cause depression. So you have people who they can't get out, they can't go anywhere, they don't have interact, they don't have the physical touch of another person. That right there, that situation can cause depression. And then you're at home, you're alone, you're working at home, you're not interacting. So you take a break and you watch the news and you see all the reality of why Black Lives Matter needs to be an issue. You see about a hangman's noose, someone else getting killed. That worries you. You have a friend, your child. He's away, but he's only in his 20s, a young African American male. And you're afraid because you don't know what's going to happen. He could just be going to the store and he gets stopped and it turned out bad. All of these fears can cause us to be depressed. Um, there are just so many things. There are also things like just that's the stressful events. But what about our hormones? Women, particularly around their time of their cycle, there's PMS, and that's real, and that's really can cause to have depression. And it might come once a month, and you might know it's coming, but nonetheless, um, it will cause depression. So there's so many things. It can be physical, it can be chemical because the PMS is a chemical depression, and other things. There are other medical issues that can cause depression or cause you to feel that way, such as thyroid issues, because the thyroid impacts the same part of the brain that is going to impact your mood. So it's so many things. I see one, Erica, that says, I know that most people experience depression at some point, but are able to come out of it. It lasts more than 2 weeks. Should a person seek help? Is there a timeline to seek help? Good question. And when you think about it, not so much a timeline, but as a severity. But yes, if after 2 weeks you can't, quote unquote, snap out of it, you might need to get some help. You don't just snap out of it, it's real, it goes on. But if it's to the point, as we said earlier, you have the headaches, you have the digestive problems, you feel so hopeless, you need to get help. And we're going to talk a little more about what that help looks like. Before this, somebody asked me a question that is it hereditary? Do you catch it from your family members? And that's an interesting question because we hear about depression and mental illness running in families, is how they put it. So when it runs in your family, what does that mean? Well, there are lots of studies that are looking at the genetic relationship between depression and family members. Um, they haven't found the exact gene, so to speak, to say if you have this gene, you're in your family, you're going to experience some type of mental illness. However, we do know that there is a prevalence in families. You might, I spoke with somebody about a week ago. Yeah, my mom had depression. I'm bipolar. My sister had some mental illness issues. She was actually bipolar and schizophrenic. Her daughter is depressed, and my son is depressed. Wow, that's one family. So there is likely some genetic component, but the exact gene has not been developed. There's a study I was looking at that looked at mothers who have postpartum depression. How does that impact their children? And it's showing preliminarily that there is a higher incidence of children who experience depression, well, into adulthood, if their mother experienced postpartum. So there is some relationship there. Genetically, it hasn't been totally figured out, but yes, there is a relationship with family members and depression moving on. Also, if you think about it, there's a learned component. If I'm a child and I'm growing up in a house and I see my mother depressed, I see that there are times she cannot get out of bed. I see that she just cries a lot. Whenever this happens, she breaks down and cries. Now, if I see that a lot, I can also learn that is how you cope with things. And we are often a result of what happens in our home. Sometimes it takes us the total opposite, and you might become the one who will never cry about anything, and you'll hide every feeling, or you'll be the one that shows every feeling. But we can respond based on what we see. So there's so many ways that it is impacted by our family. Definitely some type of genetic component. The exact gene number has not been found, but the incidence of it running in families is how they look at it, how the literature actually says it, is very, very high. Let's going to the question of what can friends do to who someone's going through. I'm going to come back to that one near the end. I wanted to talk a little more about, just looking at the incidents, and the types of depression. When we hear depression, I gave you the nice definition. You know what it is, but okay, is that it? There are different types of depression, and I wanted to look at that. Now, we're talking about it, and I'm giving you a lot of this, but we're going to come back near the end and talk about, okay, now what? You have depressed me talking about depression. I don't want to leave it there, so I want you to know, hang in there. We are going to have some more positive things to talk about because it's real, it happens, and so we're going to get to that question about how do you help a friend and how do you know when to seek help. And thank you, Sue, for asking about the different types of depression because that's where we are. Well, when you think of depression, there is what's known as clinical depression. That simply means you have officially been diagnosed by a professional to say that what you are experiencing is depression. Because a lot of times, the one thing I hear thrown around, I think they're bipolar. Everybody in the world is bipolar now. My goodness, everyone is saying that, they're bipolar. They've never been diagnosed. The person who is saying they're bipolar is not a mental health professional or a medical professional. They're just bipolar because see, some days they act like this and some days they act like that. So see, I just know I just think they're bipolar. Or I think I'm bipolar because today I'm just feeling real down. And I was feeling good this morning, and now I'm just feeling down. Well, what's going on? Well, I was watching the news, and that's enough to bring anybody down. That's not necessarily bipolar. But everybody throws out these terms. So clinical depression is simply saying you officially have the label of depression that a mental health or health professional has diagnosed you using adequate tools. Now, depression can range to mild to severe. It can be, as we said, episodic. There's this one episode, something's on in your life, and you're feeling depressed. Maybe you don't deal with it. Now, remember, because we black folk, and we do not have the luxury of dealing with depression. So when this situation comes up, oh, it's not depression. I just don't feel good. I just feel sad. I'm just this. I'm have every symptom, but we don't have it, so we don't deal with it. So that episode may turn longer because we never dealt with it. Or we can have sometimes life just gives you a series of kick, kick, kick. And you have all of that going on and you can't seem to get out of it. And you get to that place of hopelessness, helplessness, and you can't move forward. When that happens, it can become more extreme. Or if you already had the family predisposition where mom was diagnosed bipolar, grandmother was depressed, aunt is depressed, and these people have a clinical diagnosis, and now you have issues managing life, that would be a chronic or long term depression. And then there's some people, another one is dysthymia. It is a less severe form of depression. It's like if depression was way up here on the scale and you're just off the chain, then this dysthymia is you're below that high level of depression, but you just feel blah. That's the best way I can think of it. You're blah. And your episodes of depression don't last as long. You have them, they're not as severe, but it comes and goes. Just like depression, it's just not as severe, but uh, okay, yeah, I'm okay, whatever. That type of attitude. And then there is postpartum. Can happen within the first, 1 to 5 years after a person has a child. Now, they're the baby blues because of hormones and things that happen in pregnant women, but postpartum is much more severe. It will hinder a mother bonding with her child or wanting to even bond with her child. It's more severe, and 1 in 10 women can experience postpartum. But again, I remember I've had more than one clients tell me, "Oh, black women don't experience postpartum." Now you sitting in front of me because this is your issue, and you're telling me black women don't experience postpartum because once again, we don't have that luxury. But you're sitting in front of me telling me this, okay? Because you hear and it's real. Once we get out of that denial, we can move forward. Depression knows no color. It just knows you as a person. It knows no color. And the last one I'll mention is seasonal affective disorder. Now, I'm here in the great state of Texas. And in the part of Texas I live in, it really doesn't get that cold. Now, I grew up in Houston and now I live in the Dallas area. And Dallas is a little colder than Houston, but I've lived in Kansas and Kentucky. That's cold. With seasonal affective disorder comes in the wintertime, and the reason I mention the regions, you're going to see it a little less in Texas than you do a state like Kentucky or Kansas. What happens with seasonal affective disorder is light all around, it's light less of the time, and you're not outside more absorbing the sun and the vitamin D. I can remember living in Kentucky, and from early fall all the way through spring finally getting there, it was gray. I don't think the sun would shine. I just remember gray. And so imagine every day you go out, it's cold and it's gray. That impacts your mood. So seasonal affective disorder, it looks different, it's cold. You have the different interactions. In the summer, not counting summer 2020 with COVID, in the summer you have barbecues outside. You interact with people. You go to the pool. You go and do all of these things that help you interact with people. Well, in the winter, those interactions are different and it's more isolation, which is why we're seeing more um, depression during this time of COVID. It's mimicking that time where we don't get out, we're not seeing people as much. So, those are just some of the types of depression. So, it's not just I'm depressed. As you see, there are different things that deal with the depression, different types of depression. So, thanks, Sue. Um, Wow, Sue has another question and she's going to take me there. I have a teenage friend whose mother is schizophrenic. Now my friend is clinically depressed and on medication. Will she ever get off the medication and could she be addicted? Whoa, Sue, that's a loaded question, but I'm going to deal with it. Let's talk just in general about the idea of being on medication. A lot of people fight the idea of being on medication for any type of mental illness, be it schizophrenia, depression, bipolar, um, anything. We don't want to do it. And the thought is, I don't want a pill to control how I feel. But I always say this, if you have high blood pressure, you know, take a pill. Most people do. And that I choose that because that impacts our community. If you have diabetes and it gets to the point where you have to take insulin, are you going to do it? Most people do. Now, a lot are non compliant and inconsistent, but yeah, sometimes they're going to do it. Well, it's the same with medications that manage your mood. The nice clinical term for it is psychotropic medication. People don't like it. It doesn't even sound good. Psychotropic, that term really doesn't sound good, but we have to do it. So you ask, will she ever get off medication? Often, I talked about the different types of depression. When you're dealing with depression that is actually just not situational and it is who you are, it is how your brain is functioning, yeah, you will probably be on depression medication for a long time. If that is how if it's chemical, biochemical, hormonal, or if your hormones may change, things can happen, and there are things you can do. It is not just medication; it is medication and therapy. And the reason why it's a two, once you get to the point where you're functioning better, you need to learn how to be in control. So, are you going to be on there forever? Maybe not. To the case of schizophrenia, yes, because it really needs to manage your brain chemistry, and that's what it does. It manages your brain chemistry, and when you're managing that brain chemistry better, you're able to function better. So, how long a person is going to be on medication to manage their mood, there is no telling. Some people can change, some people go on and maybe they're off and they realize my life is spiraling out of control. I can't do this. They get back on the medication, and it's about not about you just using it to cope, it's about the chemicals in your brain functioning properly. I had the opportunity to explain this to a child the other day, and I explained it to a 10-year-old this way. When you're experiencing depression or bipolar, and this was a specific case, I said it's like the chemicals in your brain, the wires in your brain are connected. They're all tangled up. And what happens with the medication, it takes those tangled wires and straightens them out. And when the wires are straightened, you can function better. Now, once you take the medication and they straighten those wires out, sometimes talk therapy can give, and coping mechanisms can help you keep the wires straight. Sometimes those wires are just so tangled, they're going to need medication to keep the wires in your brain straightened out. And that's how it is. So we don't know how long it's going to take. Very interesting question, Eugene. And he says, what about food? Can food in any way impact depression? Now, I'm a big component in the mind body connection. And guess what? Yes, it can. What goes in the body um, impacts the body. I don't believe in that separation of health over here, health over here. Nope, it's all the same. So there are studies to back this up. It's not just my thought. When you have foods that are processed meat, chocolate, sweet desserts, fried food, refined cereals, high fat dairy products, people who have a steady diet of this have symptoms of depression. Now, when we think about some African American communities that are food deserts, these are the foods that are available to them. So it's not just a simple thing, oh, just go eat healthy. What if that's all that's available to you because you are in a food desert or you have to get on the bus, ride, 30 minutes to get to the grocery store, to get back on the bus for 30 minutes to get home if you want real healthy food, where there's just a little corner store around the neighborhood, around the corner where you can get everything. And what are you going to get? Some lunch meat, because that's going to feed your kids, and some mustard and mayonnaise and some bread and make a sandwich, and you're feeding them. But if that's all you're getting and you're not getting fruits because they're the fruit and vegetable choices you have, they look beat up. Or you're going to get some canned food that's high in sodium. That's not going to help. And you have sugar, sugary cereals, because that's what's there. The healthy options may not even be in that same little store. So sometimes, I don't want to just say it's because, oh, we're African Americans and we eat unhealthy. Sometimes that's the only choices that are there. But yes, food can impact how you feel. As a matter of fact, there are certain diets, the more fruits, vegetables, and plant based diets have been shown to improve depression and also in Alzheimer's disease and with diabetes and heart disease, which impact our community. So, food is an important issue, but it's hard. We have to figure ways to do it. Got time for a few more questions. Josh says, as a black male, can you speak to the insecurities and perceived negative stigma of medication and use and mental illness of black men? For sure. As we were saying earlier, black people don't have the luxury of being mentally ill, of being depressed. And as a black man, often you see yourself as weak. If I'm depressed, it means I'm weak. I should be able to handle this. Why am I feeling this way? It is a personal attack. And talking to your buddies about you depressed, you don't want to do it because they may see you as weak and maybe say, oh man, you just need to man up. Ain't that wrong with you? You ain't the only one that happened to you. Okay, your mama died. Get over it. You a man. She ain't coming back. So there is this perceived notion that something is wrong with you. It is not. And one way to counter that is we have to begin to think about being supportive of each other because it's actually there. It's real. It is really real. What I want us to look at. So we're now, and I'm going to continue with Josh's question, and we're going to talk about. There was a question about how do we. Oh, I can't see it, and I'm not astute enough to go back and look at all the comments. But I know someone asked some other questions. I'll get to it in the. So now what? We have spent time talking about it, and hopefully in this time, you have realized that it's really real. It affects us. Depression doesn't care what color you are, black, white, biracial, Asian, South American, Puerto Rican. It does not care. But since I'm talking about us, I want us to remember. So here's my so what? What do we do now with it? How do I get through this? The first thing is accept it. Back to Josh's question, as a black male, what do? Accept it. When we accept the fact that I am depressed, then I can move on. I can get help. I'm not going to go get help for something that I don't own. I'm not going to get help for my broken arm because it's not broken. I'm not going to get help for my depression because I'm not depressed. So once you realize you're depressed and you accept the fact, one, I'm depressed. Two, I'm not weak because I'm depressed. Three, I'm just a human being. And this is the experience that I'm going through. And I need help to go through it. When you need that help, seek out a professional. And the reason I say that, you can talk to your friends. Your friends see your issues through their relationship with you. It's hard for a friend to be objective because I love you. You're my dog. I can't, oh man, you're going through that. Or if it's a relationship issue, she did what? So if it's your friend, you're going to take sides. And one other thing, just think about breaking up. When you have a breakup, you've been dating somebody or been married and you're getting a divorce, you've been together for years. That's real. I've heard people say, well, you shouldn't be that upset. Y'all only dated for 5 years. That's 5 years of your life. You're going to feel bad. But your friends are going to take sides. Okay, you're the female. He did what? Boy, he wasn't no good anyway. Or if it's the guy, your boys are like, see, man, I told you, you invested too much time in her. She ain't all that anyway. So your friends are not going to be the one to be objective. So if you're seeking help from a professional, you're going to get a different point of view. But you got to accept it. If you want it to change, accept it. It's real. And that's what it say. Then be willing to accept help. It's like, okay, I need help. I got a problem. I need some help. I am a mental health professional, and I will give. If you're watching this on Facebook Live, my number has been up. If you're listening to this, I want to pass out my information. This is what I do, and this is what I enjoy doing: is helping people. In the beginning, I told you I'm a licensed professional counselor, certified Christian counselor, life coach, and Reiki therapist. There's a lot of stuff, all designed to help you reach a better space in life. So be willing to seek help. I am a professional you can call. I'm Bronwyn Lucas. My office number is 682 272 3949. Again, is 682 272 3949. You can reach out. You can call. If you're on Facebook, you can DM me and I will see it. And I'm not a big Facebook person, even though I'm doing this Facebook Live, but I'll be looking out. But give me a call. I am someone, and if I'm not the therapist you want, I will help you find somebody. I'm in the state of Texas, and right now, because of COVID, I'm doing everything teletherapy anyway. So give me a call. I'm not ready to sit in a room with you, just not there yet. The final thing, and this answers a question that Evelyn asked earlier, take care for others in need of help. Let's say you have a friend and you know they're going through depression. Help them realize that's what it is. Because they may not be at the point where, no, I'm not really depressed, I just don't want to live. And I've actually heard that comment. I'm not depressed, I just wish I wasn't alive ever anymore. Well, for me, that's a depressed person. So when you're caring for that person, get them to realize what's going on and then get them to accept it and help them get help. Everything you would do for yourself when it comes for that other person, that's what you want to do. You're going to be that initial person to talk to them, the initial one to help them to see it's a problem. Because as I say, they might not see it as a problem. They may just say, like I say, I'm a little depressed. I'm this, I'm that, and they're not fully understanding it. But take the time to be that person to help someone else get the help they need. So tonight's topic may not have been the most upbeat, but I hope it's something that you can grow from. As I said, depression doesn't care what color you are, We can all experience depression. And at one point in your life, anybody can. It may be that situational depression where someone, a loved one, has died or something has happened, and it just makes your life miserable. So get through it. I wanted to end with this little quote from a song some in a certain generational know. Joy and pain is like sunshine and rain. And it says over and over, you can be sure there will be sorrow, but you will endure. Where there's a flower, there's sun and the rain. Oh, it's wonderful. They're both one and the same. Joy and pain are like sunshine and rain. So as you go through your day, you go through your life, and you will experience joy and pain. This is Bronwyn Lucas signing off and letting you know that mental health is health. See you next week.